shade is a big deal in our landscapes, and some people try to grow St. Augustine grass in shade. St. Augustine grass is probably one of the most shade-tolerant grasses we have. What typically happens in shade, full sunlight, this the same cultivar of grass, and what happens as you increase in shaded environment, the grass tends to get spindly. It's reaching for sunlight. And in the process of reaching for that sunlight, the growing point, the meristem, that's the point where all the leaves originate, it should be down at the soil level. But in a shaded environment, that growing point tends to elevate. And what happens is here comes the lawnmower set at 3 inches. And in the full sun, 3 inches is okay. Cuts it off. But then you start getting closer to the shade, 3 inches, you start taking off more of the foliage. You get into the more shaded, and now you're taking a lot of foliage off. And you get over here, and some of those growing points are up in here, and you cut the growing point off. And then it can't regenerate new leaf blades. And so it starts to thin out. That's why you see thin turf in a shaded environment. Because our mower set at 3 inches, it's going to start cutting those growing points off. St. Augustines and zoysias are probably fairly comparable in their shade tolerance. Centipede is kind of next, Bahia grass, and then Bermuda, seashore paspalum just don't like the shade at all. And so, but these are kind of some relative. Within the St. Augustine grass cultivars, the limited amount of research shows that some of those older varieties like Seville and Delmar, which we don't see very often in the retail market, are better than what would be a bitter blue, which is maybe a little better than a palmetto, which is a lot better than a Floratim. And so some of those older varieties are in that neighborhood. Now I've got a graduate student that is going to spend the next 3 years of his life really digging into this issue and quantifying across the grasses and across the species how much light do these grasses really need. How do we manage turf in the shade? Remove the shade sources. Trim the trees. Reduce traffic in the shaded areas. We don't want any additional stress if we don't have to have it. Increase that mowing height if possible, so we don't pull that growing point off. Reduce irrigation in the shaded areas. And this is a balancing game. Because you got that, if it's tree shade, you have that tree over there that's sucking water out of the ground as well. And so you want to pull that irrigation back, but it's just a balance, so that soil, because your root system from your grass is only pulling from about that much soil, the water out of that much soil, the tree's pulling up from all over the place. And so just finding that balance there as well. And then reduce fertilization. You start loading up nitrogen in a shaded environment, and all you're going to do is cause a lot of leaf growth. And so all those leaves are growing, and in that shaded environment, it's pulling those growing points up. And then here comes the mower. Okay? And so those are just some practical tips for helping folks that are managing their turf in the shade. The other option is to not plant turf. And I'm okay with that.